Hello everyone and welcome back to the Warwick F1 show and to part 2 of our circuit tier list. If you haven't checked out part 1, you can do that if you want or don't, because the outcome of that video should be on your screen right now if you are watching us on YouTube. But last episode we ranked 14 of the 24 circuits on the F1 calendar on a scale from S being the best circuits to Miami at the bottom being as dreadful as the Miami circuit is. So this episode, we're going to pick it up with the final 9 circuits in our quest to answer the question of what makes a great Formula One circuit, right? I should say I am joined, of course, as last episode, by my co-hosts, Lucy and Callum. Thank you for joining me. Little disclaimer, we are excluding Madrid from this list because we have no experience there. And when we get to Vegas, that might become a bit clearer about why we can't let our preconceptions get in the way of what we think the racing is going to be like. So let's get straight into it. We are into the final race of the European leg of the season. We're going to Italy, magical Monza, Ferrari's backyard, as it were, I guess. Lucy, we've had some magical races at Monza, right? We went on a legendary run a few years ago where we had Leclerc winning in red in 2019, Gasly won in 2020 with AlphaTauri, Ricciardo won in 2021 with McLaren, was a fairy tale comeback. Were those rogue flukes, Lucy, or were they results of Monza's track characteristics and just the kind of stuff that it throws up during a Grand Prix?
I'm going to come out here and say immediately, Monza, S tier. And I will not be hearing complaints about this. I think that Monza is a great circuit. I agree, last year was not as interesting as some of the years beforehand. But I think that, 2024 was a really interesting year. Again, we saw Leclerc winning with Ferrari like he did in 2019, but also it showed that Monza was a circuit where, tyre strategy came into it. There was, the McLarens fighting each other. That was a really good race. I feel Monza also gives us exciting qualifyings, and there's something to be said for just drivers getting up a lot of top speed, going around a circuit that looks like a boomerang, and it just looks cool. And additionally, I would say, I talked about qualifying, there was, I think it was 2019 as well, where there was that hot mess of a qualifying where nobody made it to the line to set their final lap times, which I'm not saying that every qualifying should be like that. I prefer actually a more normal qualifying, but there was something funny about that. Monza has hosted the Italian Grand Prix every single year, bar one. That was in 1980 when it was replaced by Imola for the Italian Grand Prix, which they liked so much that they made it into its own separate race. That is your random Monza fact of the day. It was because they were resurfacing the tarmac. But I think Monza's a classic, and I think if we mentioned in last episode about Suzuka and Monaco to a lesser extent, and Spa as well, about classic circuits that maybe haven't held up quite so much going into the modern era of F1. But I think Monza has bucked that trend in that you have off races, most circuits do, but I feel like it's consistently a circuit I really look forward to, not just because of the atmosphere, but because I usually think there's a promise of something really interesting throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Lucy. I think when I was actually forming my opinion for this circuit, I completely forgot about the absolutely frantic qualifying that we had in 2019. But yeah, I can't really add much more to that apart from what you've already said. Just the drama, the excitement. There's so many unique features of the Italian circuit, which we love going back to every time we go back to Monza. And it consistently delivers, and also just the fan base that we get there. It's got probably, I would argue, maybe apart from Silverstone, I suppose I might be a bit biased there, but just the fans are so passionate, and especially for Ferrari being able to, I suppose, for like, as you mentioned, Leclerc's win there, to win there is kind of got to feel so special as well. But yeah, I definitely don't think that I want that 2019 qualifying all the time, but I think it probably is one of the times that, or one of the biggest bits of qualifying excitement that we've had really in a while, because it just completely switched up the pecking order and meant that the race was equally as exciting. So yeah, Monza for me is just is firmly in S tier.
Wow, you guys are very complimentary towards Monza. I was going to go for A. I won't lie. I think it's a great circuit. there are a lot of chicanes. I'm not a big fan of chicanes, I won't lie. I think they're quite tight and busy, and I'm not sure it's where a Formula One car's at its best.
That's fair. I think I quite like it. I do quite like a chicane. I don't know why. I think there's something about watching two cars try and fit into one chicane that, like, it can set up really good racing. Like we mentioned, I mentioned Imola briefly, and it's not on this podcast because it's not on the circuit anymore. But in F2, I think a couple of years ago, it was like the last lap of the F2 race, and Colapinto overtook Paul Aaron because he just sent it going into the first chicane. And I thought that was an example of where a chicane can be really interesting. I understand why you're not a fan, but I feel Monza has good chicanes.
I do think it depends on the circuit, because if you've got a chicane right at the end of a long straight, then it presents a really good overtaking opportunity. And so I think that's where Monza perhaps utilises it quite well. Again, like you mentioned, Daniel, quite a lot of those chicanes. So over the course of an entire Grand Prix, we do get quite a lot of chicane action, I suppose. But definitely can't work all the time. Like I know, like Catalonia, before they made those circuit changes, had that really awful chicane at the end, and that just completely, was just a bore to watch. But yeah, I do think I do think they're somewhat utilised well. But yeah, I can understand if maybe there's not like a huge diversity of circuit features apart from just the long straights and chicanes that maybe is not putting it in S tier.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I guess we have seen at Monza some good chicanery, I guess the noun would be.
That's a new word here on the podcast. New podcast vocabulary.
It's a word. It is.
I think that is like the abstract noun version of chicane is chicanery.
Should we consult the Oxford Dictionary to see if chicanery is a word?
I know it's a word, but...
Oh, it is a word? Okay, I did not know this.
Didn't believe me.
I mean, it usually means like deception, which we'll ignore that's not what we're meaning. But I guess they have the same root because they both come from like twisting around something and like switchbacking and not going in a straight path or something.
Yeah, I'm not an English student. I don't understand all these fancy words. I don't.
Yes, linguistic student, please advise.
Well, I haven't thought about that, so I can't possibly comment on that. I'm not in linguistics mode at the moment. Piastri on Norris 2 years ago. That was a good chicanery.
That was a good chicanery.
Papaya rules.
2020,
that was not good chicanery.
2021. That was bad chicanery. That is not how you
bad chicanery. No, that's a bad example of chicanery.
Yeah, that was great. Okay.
New tier list where we rank every single example of chicanery at Monza and whether it's a good example.
If you'd like to see a 5-hour video where we rank all the different chicaneries at Monza, then let us know in the comment section below.
Chicane tier ranking where it's every single chicane on like on that's ever been used in Formula One, and we rank how good it is.
I don't have the time for that before my exams.
Nah, that's a summer pod for sure. We can get on that.
It's a summer project.
Start your research now, Callum. You'll be okay. Yep. Okay. Monza will go into S tier then because I'm outnumbered, and I also appreciate the shape of the circuit. Lucy, you mentioned it's like a boomerang. I think it's like the stereotypical Italian hand gesture when they're upset. Speaking with the hands. I like that a lot. We'll move on now to the Baku street circuit in Azerbaijan. Quite different to Monza. Still very long straight, but very fiddly and a very unique challenge on the Formula One circuit. Callum, what are your thoughts on this one? Challenging, but quite rewarding if you get it right. It's been Charles Leclerc's kind of kingdom in the past in terms of qualifying and nailing the castle section, apart from the infamous I am stupid incident. But what are your opinions on the racing it gives, and where would you rank it?
Okay, this one is quite interesting for me because I genuinely want to put this in S tier, and like I I know. There is absolutely no reason. If you look at a circuit, there is no reason whatsoever why this should be S tier, but somehow it's S tier. It's like produced some of my favorite races ever, and again, that is quite strange to think if you just look at the circuit because it's very tight, very narrow. It seems like it should be somewhere that is not catered to modern F1, But I can just think of so many favorite moments that we had in the 2021 season, for example. In the 2018 race was absolutely insane with Bottas' puncture and the Red Bulls taking each other out as well. Of course, as you mentioned, the infamous I am stupid moment. And I think perhaps it's just that the fact that the nature of the circuit is so tight and narrow that it creates so many chaotic moments, and you really just don't know what's going to happen when you go into this race as well. And so, yeah, I can understand. I'm willing to lower that a little bit because I understand that it's probably S tier is probably just me being a bit biased, and I understand some people might have a bit lower for that, but I still think it produces some absolutely incredible races, and I am a big fan of the Baku circuit.
Callum, I feel like most of your favourite races just seem to involve people driving into each other.
I mean, it's like it's exciting. Not that I want it to be safe driving into each other, obviously.
Obviously, it's just quite funny.
Well, it produces exciting racing. I'm sorry, like if you watch an F2 race where you have like two cars finish the race after an 18-car pileup, then that is I suppose that's exciting.
If that is your cup of tea, then watch Monaco F2 from last year. That was hilarious.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's obviously not the only thing that's good in the race, but I think that can introduce can throw a lot of random things in, like safety cars and elements to switch up the strategy as well.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't put it in S tier, probably not quite that high, but given that I have been quite disparaging about the street circuit so far, I've been hating on Jeddah, I've been hating on Monaco, I've been hating on Miami. This will not change going forwards. I will also be hating on Singapore. Spoilers, I guess. But Baku, when I think about what I would like out of a street circuit, it is Baku. It is that style of street circuit that I'm looking for. I think it'll be interesting going forward because I think so much of the excitement comes from that really long straight that I'm wondering whether it might be one of those circuits that actually becomes worse with the new regulations. Like, I don't know whether it will be as interesting with the way that the new regs work, but that's not what this podcast is about. We will talk about that when we eventually get to our Baku preview episode in like September, October. But no, I really love Baku. I would put it in A tier. It's really funny how we brought up Monza 2019 as one of the rare examples of a really chaotic qualifying, and then we went straight on to Baku. But no, Baku, a bit like how Spa always has a little bit of a soft spot because Williams podium, Baku also has a little bit of a soft spot for me because Williams podium. But no, I really love it. I think that there is... I am always excited to go watch a Baku Grand Prix. I always think that there's the chance that something exciting might happen, even if there is occasionally a little boring of a race. I can't think of which ones off the top of my head. I remember there being one, but I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, even if there is a race that's maybe a little more on the boring side, it never diminishes my excitement to go back to that circuit. And I always go in thinking, you know, Leclerc usually performs very well there in quali, but it's very unpredictable in terms of the actual racing itself, who's going to come out on top. And I think that's very interesting. I would happily see more street circuits like Baku on the calendar, or make the street circuits that are on the calendar more like Baku, maybe. That's what I'm getting at. A tier for me, not quite enough to kind of, I don't know why, it may be sentimentality, it's not quite enough to join the likes of Silverstone and Monza, and for me, Albert Park, although I know that wasn't a universal sentiment, in that top tier, but it's a very solid A for me.
Okay, that's fair. We want the circuits more like Baku in that they become wider, I guess, because it's quite a wide street circuit that allows for racing. It's fast. There's a lot of jeopardy involved when the drivers are taking it in qualifying. I mean, I forgot about qualifying last year. We had, 6 red flags over the course of the
6 red
hour?
Flags. I think, like the Baku main straight is a motorway. Like, it's a proper motorway when it's not it's like an A road rather than compared to Monaco, where it feels like you're just driving down like a one-way street the whole time. So it's understandable that we think it gives better overtaking.
Yeah. I mean, you can go online and see pictures of the Baku Straight when it's not a Formula One circuit, and it's incredibly rammed with cars. 6 lanes of them going into turn one, which we haven't quite seen in Baku. I don't think 6 wide into turn one, but we would like to see that. Leclerc and Piastri in 2024, of course, a thrilling battle. That boring race you were talking about, I think it was 2023. I wasn't very impressed with. Perez just kind of walked it, and Max did much to stop him. But nevertheless,
average 2023 race.
It really was. In the first half of the season, that most of them were stinkers, to be fair, but they picked up later, which was good. Baku is going into A tier. Singapore. Let's do some hating again. How on earth has it survived on the calendar this long, Callum? 2023 was exciting, but literally because the cars were so close and none of them could overtake, even with a tyre offset. That tells you all you need to know about the Marina Bay street circuit, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. We're talking about examples of a good street circuit in Baku, and I think if you are going to have a street circuit, then there has to be more of an emphasis on good overtaking spots, because just the fact that the nature of a street circuit is already going to be difficult to overtake because you're typically thinking it's quite tight, it's quite narrow. And that's perhaps why Baku does make quite a good street circuit, is because you do actually have opportunities that you can overtake, like the big back straight. Whereas with Singapore, it is not that. I can't think of one properly good overtaking spot, to be honest, which, again, maybe you could put down to the current generation of F1 cars, or what was the turbo hybrid era before this year. We'll have to see if this current generation of cars, or the regulations we've got now, can maybe improve a circuit like that. I'm kind of doubtful, to be honest. But yeah, I think that for me, this just exists in probably C tier. I can't think of a single exciting race that we've had here in recent years, to be honest. It's never really. I think the only past moment I can think of back to some excitement in Singapore was maybe 2017, where we had that huge amount of rain, and that meant that obviously we got quite a lot of chaos at the start. But again, not doing well for my reputation of just liking seeing cars crash. But no, I can't think of an interesting Singapore race, so it's got to be in C tier, maybe even lower.
I mean, Singapore does have like this status as the OG night race. It was the first ever night race. I was about to call it the first ever street race, but no, Monaco's been on the calendar for ages, so it's definitely not the first ever street race. And I think it has this kind of almost sort of like mythical status because of that. And it is very pretty to watch. But ultimately, what makes a good screensaver and what makes a good F1 circuit are very different things. And I think even, people are like, oh, well, when Singapore was first on the calendar, it was really exciting. Singapore was really exciting when it was first on the calendar because somebody intentionally drove into a wall. Like, I think that's not exciting. I mean, it's exciting, but if that's what you're relying on to say that it's a really good circuit, then I think you may be clutching at straws a little bit there. So I can see why people like it. It's obviously a big challenge. The weather conditions, so high humidity and heat means it's a big challenge for the drivers. So I can understand why like winning it has this status, and even being able to finish it has a really good status behind it. But I agree. I feel 2023 was, you're like, oh, this is such an interesting race, but it was because it was a race of tension. And ultimately, I think we are maybe seeing it with rose-tinted glasses because Red Bull didn't win. Like, I think had it been Verstappen at the front instead of Sainz, and then he went and won again, we might all have a slightly less positive view of how it turned out. It was just, we were so desperate for anyone that wasn't Red Bull to win that we were like, please give us a victory. So I was harsher than Callum, not much harsher. I put it down in D tier because it's not bad enough to warrant going into the Miami tier. But if it was announced that it was being taken off the calendar and replaced by a circuit that I actually like, I can't think of one off the top of my head. If it was replaced by something trash, then I'd probably feel sad. But if it was replaced by a circuit that I actually liked, then I would not be particularly sad to see it go. That's my personal opinion. And that it may also be because the TV direction last year was so bad that I just never want to watch that again. But I don't have the sentimentality towards Singapore that I do towards some tracks like Suzuka, which boost them in my ratings, even if the racing isn't always that good.
I think for me, the only reason that I did put it a bit like a couple of tiers higher is that it looks like a very fun circuit and a very fun technical circuit for the drivers, and what can make for a very good qualifying. Like I remember in 2018 Hamilton's insane lap at Singapore. And I think that's a bit like Jeddah, perhaps that adds to the kind of thrill aspect of the circuit. But yeah, in terms of just the overall racing, I completely agree with you, Lucy. It's not it doesn't really deliver too much. And yeah, C or D tier, I would not be opposed to.
Oh yeah, that Hamilton pole, that was cool. I'll give him that. Like, this is no disparaging to like any of the racing that's actually gone on there. Like, I think it's very possible to have impressive feats of driving at circuits that produce like terrible races.
Monaco. I agree. Yeah, I was pretty much going to say the same thing. Singapore gives a great platform for the drivers to perform very well. Read Hamilton's 2018 pole lap. And also, I enjoyed the race in 2022, actually. It rained then as well. There was a bit of chaos. Verstappen was down in 8th, and he was like walking the championship at that point, so that was kind of exciting. He went for a move on Norris, locked up, and went straight on and lost a lot of places. That was exciting. But the quality of racing hasn't been great historically. So I'm going to put Singapore down in D tier. Let's move on to COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. I can't lie, I absolutely adore this circuit. It is the plagiarist among the F1 circuits in that it's stolen the most iconic sequences of corners on the calendar and just copy-pasted them into the area of land on which that track sits. But I love
Are we marking them down for plagiarism?
I don't think I want to.
Who are we? Who are we? The Warwick University marking board.
One circuit need academic integrity. You know, that's not what I look for.
This is the questions that only our podcast is asking.
Most of these circuits are designed by like the same person as well. So, like, would it be self-plagiarism then?
You're right. Actually, this is a Herman Tilke circuit.
Yeah.
The renowned, prolific Formula One circuit designer.
Is it self-plagiarism if you take something that you've used already and then put it in again? How are we counting these circuits as like formatives and then other ones as summatives, which means you can't reuse your previous work? Like, what is
okay? If we're going into like humanities degree speak, then that's me done for the podcast today, lads. But yeah, sure, that's the definition of self-plagiarism. If you just copy and paste your own work again.
I'm not sure he is though, because he didn't design he didn't design Silverstone or Suzuka, so he's just stolen from someone else.
So it's only plagiarism, guys. It's not self-plagiarism. It's just plagiarism. That's fine. It's okay, fair enough.
Right, now we've discovered that, we could bring legal action against Herman Tilke or something. That would definitely work. We should do that. Callum, please tell me what you think of this circuit, plagiarism aside.
Plagiarism aside, not sure how Herman Tilke would reference other circuits, but no, I really like COTA. I think it's very exciting. As you say, it has just because it does have a lot of aspects of other circuits, those aspects will still work. And yeah, I can just think that from what we've been speaking about before, not just a combination of it's very exciting for the drivers, but also it does produce some very entertaining races. One I can particularly think of is Kimi Räikkönen's last win, I believe, for Ferrari in 2018, where he finally got the victory, as he acknowledged over the radio, and yeah, plenty of other moments like that. So I would be very sad if I was to see COTA go. I think it deserves a firm place on the calendar, and I don't know why we had to go and get other American races. Like, why would you do that? I suppose maybe Las Vegas, if anything, but. Yeah, I think maybe that's all we needed.
Callum, it's like we said last time, money.
It is money, realistically. It's like one of the F1 people thinks like, I need to fill up my life supply of food or something, and then just like, okay, I'll go and get a new circuit in like either the Middle East or America or somewhere like that. So yeah.
It's like, we need a bigger budget. I'll just find a circuit in America somewhere. Don't worry. Find a spare car park in Miami. They can build a circuit there.
We'll soon have like a race for each state, and then if that happens, I will stop watching Formula One. I think.
Can you
said
imagine?
About a car park? It was literally a car park in Vegas in the 80s.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, bring back the Caesar. Bring back the
And isn't
worst circuit ever. The Caesar's Palace. Actually, no. I think think
Isn't it
Dallas
a car
might be
park in
worse.
Miami as well? Like, isn't it the car parks of the
It
Hard
is.
Rock
It's
Stadium?
the Hard Rock.
Part of
Hard
it.
Rock
It is
Stadium car
quite
park.
literally a car park, and from the racing, it is also a car park. It has double car park status.
I'm going to say this. If you can fit a Formula One circuit inside your car park, the car park is too big.
I mean, it's a big stadium.
At that rate, you have to get in a car to get from one end of the car park to the other end of the car park. Like if you get a car parking spot really far away, you might as well get in a car to drive to the stadium again.
We're now talking about the feasibilities of the Hard Rock Stadium car park. Let's go.
Guys, Miami was last episode. Go to please.
it's just haunting us. But yeah, sorry, Kota.
I agree. I'm so glad that Kota has maintained its status as the US Grand Prix, because I think it's really good. Obviously, it would feel kind of weird if it stopped being that, because it's called the Circuit of the Americas. So like it would feel kind of weird if they didn't. I love Kota. Plagiarism aside, and I think plagiarism in F1 circuits is a good thing, because it's like if we like these corners, then putting them together will probably be good. Another thing I love about Kota is that I really love, I feel like it's a circuit where the elevation changes within it also really add to the character of the circuit. Like it has some elevation change within like the first bit of the corners. I am thinking back to last year where like everyone drove into each other at turn 1 and like all piled up on top of the hill. But it's something where I feel like that adds to the character of the circuit directly. And so I quite like that. I also think it works really well as a sprint venue. I mean, obviously we're judging the circuits, but like I judged Bahrain and Barcelona a bit on that. I think they're good testing venues. I think Kota really works having a sprint race there. And I think it's very well, or it was at least very well suited to the last generation of cars, the turbo hybrid cars. It felt like a good circuit for that. So I'm hoping it continues. I put Kota in A tier. I very much like it. I could be moved down. I probably couldn't be moved up just because I don't think it's got, in my head, it doesn't occupy the iconic status. It's not got iconic status circuit tracks. But if Kota ever goes before Miami does, I will be very sad. I really like it, and I think it's a good one. I think it's got a good level of challenge to it, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I always look forward to it. It helps as well that it's always when we're back at uni, so it's like it's usually one of the first races that we all go and like watch together as a society, and I think that's nice.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, it's great to watch it in the Clarendon, as always. I agree. I think it's a huge compliment to say that a circuit is a great sprint venue, because it just means that it provides great racing, right? Which is all you want from a Formula One circuit. And as a result, I was kind of tempted to put it up into S tier. So we're kind of split. Callum, you have the deciding vote, A or S tier for Kota.
See, this is different.
Imagine if Callum was about to stick it in like C tier.
No, you can't do that to Kota. What if we put, just for reference, what if we put in S tier already? We put in Monza,
Silverstone, and Austria are in S tier.
I think you've got to put it in S tier then. Like I think if you were comparing it to the ones that we've already put in A tier, to keep ourselves consistent, I think it's way better than the ones that we've put in A tier already. And yeah, as we've already mentioned again, I think it's very consistently. There's almost a kind of a baseline level that the race is always going to be somewhat interesting. And just, I don't know why, from the nature of the circuit, from the elevation changes, as Lucy mentioned. But yeah, I think I'd be very happy to put in S tier.
I am happy with S tier. I realised I said before that I'd maybe be moved down more than I would be moved up, but actually I regret that decision, because I've realised that if you build a race calendar based around, with extra races as well, but based around Monza, Silverstone, and Austria, I would also want it to be built around Kota. Like I would want that to be like a cornerstone of the calendar as well. So I'm chill with S tier.
Cool. Yeah. Thing I love about Kota is that you have a long back straight where overtaking is possible, and then you have a couple of corners. And then you have the cheeky little double left-hander where you can kind of throw a move down the inside. And I think that's a really exciting thing to watch. I mean, sometimes it doesn't come off. I think Sainz and Antonelli collided there last year. But if there's good awareness from both drivers, I think that's a really fun piece of racing to watch.
To be fair, Sainz and Antonelli, it felt like collided at a lot of races last year.
Just Sainz and rookies, honestly. He had a very rookie, what was it, like his 9th season at that point.
Yeah.
But it felt a bit like a rookie at times.
I think it was his 10th season because he joined in, or his 11th season because he joined in 2015.
Must have been his 11th, surely. That's even worse. But there we go. That was.
Have we also mentioned as well the key number one moment of Russell carnage that I think every single clip that I've seen online of.
Oh my god! I forgot about that.
Like the one where he in turn one, as you mentioned, Lucy, he just fully turned into me. Yeah, that is definitely something I think of when I think of Kota.
Also really loved you specifying that Raikkonen's last win was his last win with Ferrari, as if we might have believed that he won a race while he was at Alfa Romeo.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I could have just said. I suppose I may be just protecting myself for if he comes out of retirement for like another time and just goes to I don't know some second seat for. And then maybe Cadillac or something and still driving when he's 50. It would not surprise me, but yeah.
It would surprise me.
Ferrari.
Given that he didn't even do like a celebration when he retired, he just got out of his car and left.
I mean, like it's how he's been for his entire career, really, let's be honest.
Yeah, no, Raikkonen's coming back with Red Bull when Verstappen retires, trust me. That's
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so just to make it clear, we've decided to put Kota in S tier. Mexico City. Highest altitude circuit on the calendar, which means less drag and kind of ineffective slipstream. That's going to be less important this year, but historically it's been quite difficult to get an overtake done in Mexico, and it's also got that feature where if you manage to make an overtake into turn one, with DRS, you've then got the DRS for the straight that follows immediately, and you can just kind of pull away. There isn't a second detection zone to allow the car behind to re-overtake you, and that makes for quite stale battling. It's quite disappointing to see that, in my opinion, when something like Brazil does have a second detection point which allows you to fight back. Callum, Mexico, it's a bit of a meh for me.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about Kota with as well. You mentioned the high altitude and also the problems with that that main back straight and also the straight that comes directly after it. Also, something else in relation to what we just said for Kota is the elevation changes. Like Mexico has no elevation change whatsoever. Sector 3 is absolutely awful in my opinion. Just that awful. Like I get that we have the whole grandstand thing so you can watch the cars go through, and I don't know if they purposely made the chicane there just so slow so that the people could see the cars for longer, but it makes for awful racing. Certainly, it'll be interesting to see maybe if the new regulations do have any effect on what you just mentioned, Daniel, with the fact that you have those two straights, because obviously the main aid that people had in overtakes on straights was DRS, and the fact that we didn't have that second detection point caused it a big problem. But now obviously we've got the effect of the battery as well, which might mean that you might have that effect like you do have in Brazil, where you can re-overtake the car that's just passed you on the main straight because you might have some extra battery compared to them. But it also might make it worse because the engine is going to be less powerful because of the high altitude, and so we're even more reliant on the battery. So we'll have to see how that one pans out later on. But yeah, I think Mexico can be very boring, to be honest. There's not really any interesting aspects to the circuit at all, in my opinion. I've already mentioned the lack of elevation changes and very, very limited in particularly high-speed corners. I suppose Sector 2 does have a bit more high-speed corners, but even so, they're not. I still find them quite interesting with the lack of elevation changes as well. And I've already mentioned my problems with Sector 3. So I feel a part of me feels that it's like too good to put down in D tier, but then at the same time, I can't really find any evidence to argue against myself with that. So I'd be very happy with C or D tier. Unfortunately, I would not be very disappointed if this one left the calendar, to be honest.
I put it, when I made my own little personal tier list, which is what I'm going off here, I put it in C tier rather than D tier, which I think is because when I think about the ones in D tier, there's always something about the circuit that I specifically don't like. I feel Mexico does have its redeeming feature. We've talked about how the problem of having the DRS and it sort of getting a double dose of it effectively. But I think it always has the potential to produce very interesting starts because it has such a long run to the first corner. And I think that does, the start of a race is important. It does kind of set the tone of the rest of the race. And so I think that is always fun. I'm always excited come the start of the Mexico Grand Prix. That being said, the primary thing I remember about the Mexico Grand Prix is that one time where Leclerc went onto the grass and then the graphics got it wrong and it showed him going underneath the sort of tech-generated the tech-generated advertising. So the fact that I mainly remember that is probably not a good thing. But it's one of those circuits where I very much don't have many strong opinions on it. It's, we'll go to it for a weekend and I'll be excited about it for the weekend. I doubt it will probably, there's a very low likelihood of me ever saying that it's my least favorite race of the season or biggest disappointment at the end of the season. But there's also a very limited chance that it's ever going to make sort of my top 5 favorite races of the season. It's just sort of there. And so I've put it in C tier because for me, C tier was kind of just, it's there and I've kind of got nothing particularly positive or particularly negative to say about it. But that means, of course, that I can be dragged in either direction in terms of my rating.
Okay, yeah, it does feel like a pretty neutral circuit, I think, Mexico. You're definitely right about the start. It's the longest run to turn 1 of the season, which invites 3 wide, right? 3 cars going into turn 1 side by side. Perez got that very wrong in 2023, which was heartbreaking, but entertaining, and it gave us something to talk about.
It generated a lot of memes. A lot of like those Rocket League memes because like his car jumped down.
Yeah. I remember those after Verstappen in Hungary as well. Like I'm now remembering these Red Bull cars flying.
And I think it was Hamilton and Alonso in Spa. Was it that 22 or 23?
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, where Hamilton was lifted into the air and came slamming back on the ground in Spa. Yeah, at the com. Mm-hmm. I'd forgotten about that one. Well, memory unlocked.
Sorry, that's a tangent again. Back to Mexico.
We're talking about Rocket League somehow, but there we go. Okay, let's move on. Mexico, sure, Mexico's average, we'll put it in C. Let's move on to Interlagos. We can safely go back to glazing, I think, for this circuit. I'm not going to accept anything other than S tier. Positive vibes only from Brazil, Lucy. It's almost perfect.
Yeah, S tier. I'm not even going to justify it. I think name any corner on the Brazil circuit and there will probably be some sort of move, be something interesting, be something cool to say about it. Bit like Kotor, I think the elevation change in that first sector is really good. The sort of, it's not, is it a chicane? It's a swoopy thing. I don't really know what it is, but it has a really good, there's overtaking opportunities. There is potential drama in qualifying. There's potential weather drama, but it doesn't need weather drama to be interesting. The drivers seem to like doing it. There's drag races to the line sometimes. It always feels really close. You feel like there's always the chance for something unpredictable to happen, that it's not one of the, like, even after qualifying, you look at the qualifying and think there's a chance that none of these top 3 are on the podium come the end of the race. Yeah, I feel that strong contender for my favourite race of the season. Silverstone, I think, takes it because of sentimentality. I am half British, so naturally I quite like Silverstone. But Interlagos, I mean, I think if they ever took Interlagos off of the calendar, I might actually like scream and cry.
No, I was about to say I'd have to agree, although I'm not sure I'd necessarily scream and cry if they take it off the calendar, but I would certainly be very sad. The only thing I'm very much happy to put it in S tier. The only single thing I can think about is that Sector 2 is a little bit narrow, which maybe means that occasionally in some races, I think you are watching cars go around Sector 2, maybe battling, and you're just thinking, okay, we're now just waiting for them to get back onto that incredible sort of banked part of the circuit that goes back onto the main straight, and then that incredible Sector 1. So I think that's the only small complaint that I can think, but then that's just me clutching at straws, really. so far in this podcast and obviously on the last episode, I think I've been a big part of my judging of the different races and ranking them is the memorable moments I can think from all the times that I've watched these races. And Brazil, you just have so many, an endless amount of those. Obviously, the number one that comes to everyone's mind is that incredible final race in 2012. We also had Hamilton and was it Alex Albon in the Red Bull, I think, as well. Albon on for his first podium of Red Bull, and Hamilton just brought that to a close. And yeah, a lot of moments like that. So I think it produces some really exciting races. As Lucy quite rightly said, does not depend on the weather or anything like this. It's just always has something to offer. And so I think for me, it's quite possibly the definition of an S-tier circuit.
I will say, both Callum and Daniel, I know you glazed Jeddah because it was the host of your favourite ever F1 race. Brazil was the host. Brazil 2019, Hamilton versus Albon, Gasly first podium, Sainz first podium, Verstappen win, kind of redemption from 2018 when he was winning and then punched Esteban Ocon in the face. That happened after the race. It wasn't that he parked his car, went and shoved Ocon over.
So we've covered that I really like cars crashing into each other. Lucy really likes people punching each other as a favourite.
No,
race.
I'm talking about 2019 was a redemption from that. 2019 was my favourite race. I will also say I know what you mean about Sector 2. I am admittedly kind of let down in my commentary on Brazil because I don't speak Portuguese and therefore I can't pronounce really any of their corner names. But I think Sector 2, I don't mind that it gets narrower because in some ways I think it builds the tension. It means that the racing isn't always immediate switchbacks all the time. It's sort of, recharging the battery, sticking within the DRS, really trying to stay close. I think it's a very different sort of compelling. It's kind of the same interest for me that means that I really love F1 strategy, is that it's sort of the tension building. But in Brazil, that tension building is going to have a resolution by the time you get back to the end of Sector 3, beginning of Sector 1, in a way that some circuits like Canada, you don't have that. So I don't mind so much there's a little section of it where it's a bit narrower and therefore harder to send a move.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think it's still pretty easy to follow in the second sector, so it's not like the cars are separated much when they're trying to get close to the car ahead, which I like. It is, I can't quote any specific examples of races because they've all just been great, but it is the sprint circuit on the calendar, or it should be the sprint circuit.
I'm devastated they've taken the Brazil sprint away from me, because I also think it was one of those things where the sprint also made it interesting, not only because the sprint was great, but the fact that they only had one practice session there, especially with so much variable weather, made it really interesting as well, because the teams can't fine-tune their setups over 3 practice sessions, and so that adds a little bit of drama going into quali.
Yeah. I mean, Sunday in 2024 was just amazing as well, because we would have had it anyway, but we had qualifying and the Grand Prix on the same day. Hadn't happened since 2019. That was a feast, especially for Sao Paulo, and a great day for Max Verstappen. Well, the second half was a great day for Max Verstappen.
I would have loved it even more because Williams were in like the top 5, were it not for the fact that they both crashed and therefore had to take 15 place grid penalties.
The fact that we have a sprint race for Singapore, but we do not have a sprint race for Brazil this year, just proves that the people running F1 do not know anything or care at all about anything to do with F1 and just want money.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. We're going to Miami next. That's a sprint venue, and Interlagos is not somehow. Final thing about Interlagos, we said that it doesn't rely on changeable conditions to provide great races, but it is prone to changeable weather, which is the icing on the cake for me and why it deserves to be a very strong S-tier circuit. Okay, we're going back up to North America now. Such is the non-linearity of the Formula One calendar, to Las Vegas. A street circuit newly introduced, 3 years ago now, but that's new enough. It's the newest circuit on the calendar, or will be before September. And I don't think it's a very exciting track to drive because all the corners are pretty much the same. It's just 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree. But wow, does it create some great racing. It's very wide, like Baku in that way. It doesn't feel like the strip's too long somehow. And that we still get the overtakes being finished come the end of the strip instead of beforehand, before they reach the braking zone, I mean. So that was kind of why we didn't want to judge Madrid either, because we've seen concepts and we've seen what it's going to look like. But Vegas, it was ridiculed when the track map was first unveiled, upside down pig, etc. And it does look like an upside down pig, but it just created a great race in 2023, and I think has consistently since, with a lot of overtaking. Callum, does Vegas deserve A tier? Would you go that high?
Oh, I think quite possibly from what we've seen so far of it anyway. I must admit I don't really remember too much from Las Vegas races, and purely just because it's done like 4 a.m, and so when I watch it I'm already half asleep. But certainly the fact that the race can keep me awake at that time of the morning is something entirely. And you did mention, as you quite rightly mentioned, Daniel, it is probably quite a bit like Baku, in the sense that it's an example that you should not judge a book by its cover, or you should judge a race by its circuit map. So I definitely think it is worthy of a place on the calendar, given how exciting the racing is there. It's not just that there's a lot of money in a race, even though that is very much a reason that it is on the calendar. So yeah, certainly from what we've seen so far, I would happily have it on the calendar still. Whether the new regulations change that up at all, I don't know, but we'll obviously have to see about that so far. But yeah, I think I would definitely agree with A tier, in the sense that it has produced a lot of memorable moments and a lot of exciting races in the past.
I'm genuinely surprised that Callum was that positive. As a diehard McLaren fan, I thought he'd be a Las Vegas hater.
Okay, sure. If I'm being objective, yes.
No, I was, when you were like, I can't really remember any of it. I wonder if you've just willfully banished.
I might have,
from your brain. You're just suppressing the memory,
suppressing it into the back of my subconscious, and I just like, what are we talking about? I don't know. Nothing happened.
No, I am a big fan of Las Vegas. Now they've actually welded down their manhole covers. I think it's a really good street track. I very much agree. I don't really know. You got to get on watching the first replay of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which is on at 7 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. That's what I did, and it was great. But I really love it. I'd put it in A tier because I think every race we've had so far has been really solid, has been exciting in some way or another. Sometimes that's because the midfield's really exciting. Sometimes it's because the front of the field's really exciting. Sometimes it's because it creates this really good tension. Sometimes it's because of drama. But I think that consistently, it's gone from a circuit. It's probably the fastest that a circuit has gone from being one which I was kind of a bit about being added to the calendar. I will admit, I was never an outright hater, but I was probably one of the people who was skeptical about adding yet another street circuit to the calendar when there are like some track, when especially kind of in the aftermath of COVID, and we've been to like Mugello and like the Eiffel Grand Prix and things like that, and I was annoyed that they weren't on there, but we were getting this new American street circuit. Also, I think I'd been burned by the addition of Miami, and so I didn't really have any trust. But I'm really happy Las Vegas is there, and to the extent I don't really mind how big of a show they make out of it. Like I thought it would be something which would annoy me, especially at like 3 a.m, but I actually don't mind how much they hype it up. I think it's gone to be part of the reason, like its slightly cringeness has gone to be, because it is accompanied by good races, has come to be part of the reason why I look forward to it on the calendar, because it's like, oh, it's Vegas, it's chaos. And admittedly a very long way away, but if much like Jeddah and Bahrain were cancelled, if Abu Dhabi and Qatar also had to be cancelled for the same reason, we would get a season finale in Las Vegas. And obviously I want those races to go ahead for many reasons, but if they couldn't for whatever reason, and I would probably still prefer an Interlagos finale, which is what we'd get if Las Vegas didn't exist. But I don't mind the idea of the season finale being in Las Vegas. I think that would be kind of cool. Might even get me up at 3 a.m. to watch it, which would be rare. But I've stuck it in A tier. I could be moved, but I'm solid in my convictions about that.
I don't think we need to move it, to be honest. I think Vegas is safely in A tier. You mentioned the cringe. Big up Terry Crews from last year. in the pink.
Oh my
Cadillac.
god, those Lego glasses.
Yeah, those two. That was something. And the insistence to do the Parc Fermé interviews not in Parc Fermé and instead by the Bellagio fountains.
In the little car that they. And like the announcer, remember the first year where like Sergio Perez's face when like the guy was reading out everyone's names.
Oh yeah. Bruce Buffer, I think his name is. That was.
What can I say? It's a classic. It's just so American.
Yeah, especially the definitely live and not pre-recorded Mickey Mouse performance from last year.
Is it also Las Vegas that you have that massive sphere thing that if you project the driver's face on it just looks absolutely just comical as well? I think that moves it up at least one tier personally.
But even the fact that all of the photos, like in the background, there's just this ominous looking smiley face on the Las Vegas sphere staring down at the drivers while they're driving. You could be hearing about some really intense strategy call, and then there's just this like dirty-looking smiley face.
Yeah.
Easily the most distracting Formula One race, surely for the drivers.
So many drivers have crashed on the circuit just from having to look into that sphere as they go on the circuit.
That's what all the chaos is. It just ruins.
Yeah.
Maybe it's sabotage. Maybe one team, maybe Red Bull like hacked the sphere last year. So that McLaren would forget about their floor wear and therefore get disqualified. Rare conspiracy theory that I've never heard anyone else mention because it makes no sense.
I'm not sure that's going to lead on anywhere other than this podcast. I'll be honest.
Yeah, the Herman Tilke thing is more likely to go somewhere than that. I think, if I'm being honest. Final two races now. We're going to move on to Qatar. We've had a few races there now. It came on the calendar in 21. We saw a few punctures. The FAA got scared and have introduced minimum tyre stint lengths for 23 and last year, but I don't think there was one for 24. It's a bizarre race in that way. It's quite unique. A lot of high-speed corners and hence a lot of tyre degradation and very exhausting for the drivers as well, Lucy. Thoughts on Qatar? Is it kind of average? Is it above average? What do you think?
I think it's kind of slightly below average. I am very glad that they stopped deciding that it was a good idea to make people drive around in F1 cars in September in Qatar, because like if they didn't let people play football in September in Qatar because it was too hot, why did they put F1 cars on that track in September in Qatar? It was stupid. It was ridiculous. I'm glad they're not doing that anymore. I think Qatar suffers from the fact that it was built as a MotoGP circuit, and what makes a good motorbike circuit is not the same as what makes a good F1 circuit, just because of the fact that they have different dimensions and different styles. And even like the corners and the tyre wear, they're just very different. And so I think Qatar does suffer from that. I think at times it also can be quite boring. It's not particularly memorable. Obviously, I was delighted that Sainz got a podium there last year, but compared to other races we had last year, the sprint was fine. The interesting thing about the race was just how badly McLaren did at strategizing, which wasn't even unique to just that race. So there's nothing particularly interesting about that. Although I did think it was really funny that Red Bull won that race and then were like, do you know who we should take onto the podium? Our head of strategy. Because honestly, that was hilarious, and I would worth it. I say that it's good. I think its first race in 21 was good. I think it's good in that it can set up a good season finale, but I would still probably put it in C or D tier. It is not my favourite, and if we didn't ever go to that circuit again, like if they took it off the calendar, either because they built a new one or they just decided we're not doing it anymore, it's just going to be for MotoGP, I wouldn't mind particularly, because I don't see them changing it much from what it is. It's kind of a non-unique circuit.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Lucy there. I think it's definitely non-memorable. Not a lot of moments that I can really think of that I can look back to think, wow, I can't wait to get more of those moments when we go back there for this year. A bit like what we were saying with Mexico, where I'm tempted to put it in B or C tier in the sense where we were saying like it not necessarily anything particular about the circuit that I really hate and have strong feelings for, but also I don't have any strong feelings towards it about any features of the circuit that I love particularly. So yeah, I think Qatar, wouldn't mind if it goes, wouldn't mind if it stays. I'm tempted to put it in C tier, to be honest. It definitely has the potential to produce some good racing on some occasions. We mentioned obviously the factors like the high tire degradation, which can maybe introduce a lot of different strategies as well. But that's certainly not something that I think delivers all the time. And so I'm tempted to put it in C tier.
Yeah, C tier I think is a safe bet for Qatar. It's been a sprint circuit recently. We've seen some decent racing in the sprint. I'm thinking a couple of years back when Russell and Piastri were on different strategies and just kind of traded places a few times. That was quite good. But that's the kind of thing that it takes, is real tyre offset to create great racing. And you can't really have that when you have the mandated stint lengths. So Qatar for me is a bit meh. We come to our final circuit on the calendar, the end of the final triple header of the season as well, Abu Dhabi. However, I think this is a rare stinker, Tilka track. I won't lie. If it were up to me, I'd just chuck it in Miami tier and be done with it. I honestly can't see the appeal, even after the changes that they made in 2021. I think it still generates very poor racing and very few opportunities to get racing done. The chicane after the kind of back straight, as it were, is just horrible for separating the cars. And then you have a quick left-hander after that, which separates them further with dirty air because they can't get around the outside at that point. So it's easy to defend. And I don't know, it's just really bland racing to me, Callum.
Yeah, I think with Abu Dhabi, we might be a little bit biased just because it is the final race of the season. So we do get things. We obviously get all of these resolutions of, like, for example, the drivers' battle last year between the three drivers, and obviously the Constructors' Championship between McLaren and Ferrari the year before. So I suppose we might be a bit biased in seeing that Abu Dhabi perhaps feels better than it is because of those aspects and not actually anything to do with the circuit. I do think the circuit layout is fairly boring. I remember it was worse with the old track layout, but then since they changed it, I think it was in 2020 or 2021 where they removed that awful chicane at the end of the straight. So you get a bit of a faster switchback. And I think personally for me actually makes Sector 1 and also the start of Sector 2 very interesting. Sector 3, I could take it or leave it. It's very, very flat, just like the rest of the circuit is as well, and just a lot of very uninteresting corners that, again, you just feel like you're waiting to get back onto the main straight. So I think it's kind of, the circuit can be hit and miss in some certain aspects. I think as I mentioned, the sector, the really fast-paced Sector 1, I really like, but the rest of the circuit, I could take it or leave it. So I'm tempted to put it in C tier or maybe B tier at a push, but it's I certainly think that if you took a racetrack like that and you put it in the middle of the calendar, or you just put it in, like, I don't know, a few races after the summer break, then it would just lose so much of its interest because you don't have that waiting behind it of whatever championships are being resolved by the end of the season. So that's why I'm tempted to put it quite low down compared to other circuits.
That's funny because I think of it in completely the opposite way, in that because it's the final race of the season, that makes it worse when it doesn't deliver. Because yes, we have the resolutions, but
I see.
Resolved in quite a flat way. Like,
that's true, actually. Yeah, it would be better. I don't know. It's an interesting debate because obviously we used to have, for example, Brazil as the last race of the circuit, but then it's interesting. Would you for a last race of the season, do you want a more mediocre track so that it can be brought up by being the final race of the season, or do you want an absolute home hitter for the last race of the season? Because I'm like, I don't know, like I feel like I would rather have this as a. I guess I'm a bit biased because I've only ever had this circuit as the season finale. I've never seen any others live, but either keep this as the season finale or just get rid of it entirely. I don't want to see it mid-season. That I'm sure about.
I'd advocate only for the second option of just getting rid of it entirely. I definitely don't.
Fair enough.
As the season finale either is
certainly out of all of the ones that we've advocated to get rid of, which I realise at this point is quite a few. We're down to about a 15 race season or something after all this. But I think out of that group, it's probably one of the better ones, but which is meant to be a sort of a compliment, but not really. So yeah, I think I'd maybe have to agree with you, Daniel, that it's I wouldn't really mind if we got rid of it and went back to another circuit like Brazil or something at the end of the season. It would produce a lot more exciting finales to seasons compared to what we have had, which is like last year, like 2021, before obviously that thing happened, before the 2021 race was a pretty bad and boring finale before what obviously happened. So yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you on that sense.
Yeah,
I can't think of
last year, right? When you have a three-way fight for the title, it's going to be huge. You have a lot more viewers coming into the sport for Abu Dhabi because it's going to be this huge sporting event. It's going to be spectacular. Who's going to win it? Is it Norris, Piastri, Verstappen? And then it kind of falls short a little bit. I don't think it looks great for the image of Formula One when you've got record viewers and that's happening. And then you also have the side of, even if it's not a title decider, we have no F1 for 3 months. And I want something spectacular to see in the to kind of tide me over and allow me to survive the winter break. It's my logic.
Yeah, I can't think of any race at Abu Dhabi that has actually been interesting because of anything to do with Abu Dhabi, as opposed to because it was like 2010. It was interesting because there was still the title fight going on. 2021, there was still a title fight going on. 2025, there was still a title fight going on. For even something like, 2016, there was still a title fight going on. I can't think of anything. It was made better when they did the little remodeling, which is something, I guess. But there's nothing about Abu Dhabi that I think couldn't be replaced by another circuit and have that other circuit do it better. Is that, I mean, like you said, a three-way title fight and the 3 title contenders finished all in first, second, and third. And yet we didn't see them fight, I think, for the whole race. There was no battle behind it. It was just kind of felt empty. It was, yeah, I think it takes a lot to make a 3-way championship fight boring. And yeah, I think Abu Dhabi did that last year, and I feel we'll do it again. Like if we go to Abu Dhabi this year and we go in with an interesting title fight, probably between Russell and Antonelli, who knows? There may be other people involved in it as well. And there was an interesting title fight going into that, I can guarantee Abu Dhabi will be a letdown. Either because it's interesting, but because something controversial happens, like in 21, or it will just kill all of the tension. And yeah, I'm a hater. I think in my own personal tier list, I even put it in the Miami tier, which is something, but I would be fine to see it in D tier as well. But if anyone tries to put it higher than that, then I genuinely want to know why, because I can't actually see how you think that.
Yikes, Callum. Yeah, no,
it's not looking good.
Callum, you are severely overruled on this one.
Honestly, I think that's fair enough. I'm not willing to protect the circuit a lot.
That's no disrespect to people's opinions. That's just, this is a rare thing where I have a bit like Daniel, I feel like it being the season finale puts extra pressure on it rather than being like a get out of jail free card for it. And so, yeah, this is not me saying that you're just objectively wrong, but you're subjectively wrong.
I guess that's a bit better, I suppose.
How respectful. Okay, I'm out of a nod to Callum then, because we've just slandered him. I'm going to put it in D tier, I think. Alongside Monaco and Singapore, I think that feels fair.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that feels also because I think it's important that Miami just stands alone as a beacon of trash.
Exactly. Yeah, we can't be polluting it with anything else, or maybe writing it off with Abu Dhabi.
I like how you call it a beacon of trash. Like any future racetrack designers, just look at this and just don't do any of this.
Don't build your track in a car park, people.
Don't do that. That's rule 1 of building a circuit. Don't build in a car park.
Let's be honest, we've complained so much about Abu Dhabi. The FIA will probably hear this and go, do you know what would be really funny? A season finale in Caesar's Palace again, and then we'll all regret our lives.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be crazy. Okay, that brings us to the end of our tier ranking of all the circuits. It took quite a long time, but I think we can try to answer what makes a good Formula One circuit. We've put Austria, Silverstone, Monza, Kota, and Interlagos into S tier. So long straights, hard braking, I suppose, to generate overtaking. Iconic corners, probably optional, but the main thing is just throwing up bangers year after year, which those circuits seem to do, unlike Miami, which hasn't thrown up one, hence why it's at the bottom, to summarize.
I wouldn't say it's long. I would say it's comprehensive.
It's comprehensive. Yeah.
I'd say it's representative. Like, there can now henceforth be no other circuit debates. We have definitively decided for the F1 community and the world as a whole what makes up a good circuit. And,
also, I've realised we only need one more. Like, take the S tier and then one more circuit from the A tier, and the F1 and the FIA would have their inbuilt sprint calendar for next year.
That's a good point, actually.
They'd have 6 sprint races.
We said as well, though, that like we're trying to find the formula for an amazing racetrack, but then at the same time, I think like all the good racetracks should be a little bit different. It should bring something new to the calendar as well, which I think all the ones that we put in S tier probably do. If we were to go back through them, but yes, we've done well. We've done the F1 community a favor, I think, personally.
Yeah, they likely wouldn't be in S tier if there were loads more circuits like them. Bar Kota, which obviously we've already discussed, it's plagiarism.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. What a wholesome note to end on. They're all unique and special in their own ways.
We can't end the episode like that, can we?
And that's why we hate Miami.
We love them. We love most of them, and I think even the ones which we hate, we're still excited to go and watch them because we're excited to go and watch a Grand Prix. Miami, we might be certified Miami haters, but we're still excited to have the Miami Grand Prix to watch something. Like, we might wish it was somewhere else instead, but
I think
none of these circuits are bad enough to make us want to do something with our weekend that's not watch the sport.
I mean, I think this season is a bit different because obviously we've had these 2 races missing for Bahrain and Saudi Arabia.
We have had
this is the first time I'm genuinely excited to see the Miami Grand Prix, not because I actually want to see the tracks go around the circuit, but just because like I want to see some F1 over the past month. Like, we've had an April,
a 5-week break.
Free April.
I think it's really mean that April is my birthday month and there's been no F1 on. I personally think that's targeted towards me specifically.
That's a personal attack by Mohammed bin Salem against you, Lucy.
Yeah. They definitely had time to like put on the Turkish Grand Prix or something. I would have been fine with that.
Oh, dear.
Just drive around Suzuka. Drive around Suzuka again. I would have been happy with that.
It is quite annoying though, because like in 2020 we got a load of really interesting and different circuits because of everything that happened with COVID. So I was hoping we were going to get that this year, but we just obviously it was a bit short notice. So
yeah, never assume that. Never assume Formula One's going to do something interesting, Callum.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago. They changed a lot since then.
They have,
unfortunately.
I think we've all changed, really. The Abu Dhabi circuit's changed. It was after 2020 that they did their little remodeling of the last section.
Many of
the probably moved it from Miami tier to D tier. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely would have been in Miami tier. That's for sure. Had they not made those changes, but thankfully,
in 2020 we wouldn't have had a Miami tier because fortunately Miami didn't exist back then. The circuit, not the whole city. Miami.
Back to the golden day. Back to the golden era before Miami was just brought upon us and just tore down just everything good about F1.
Yeah, well, it gave us a whole tier, so I'm grateful. That's the only contribution.
That is the biggest contribution to F1.
We would have had to call it something boring like E tier.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's wrap this up. And a reminder that these rankings, as Callum said, they are not subjectively correct. They are objectively correct. So you're welcome for doing this on behalf of all Formula One fans.
Yep.
And We will be back next week with our Miami Grand Prix preview because it's almost here. The break is nearly over, and then we have another 3 weeks after that where there will be no Formula One again. But let's not think about that right now. I want to thank Lucy and Callum for joining me on this not extensive, comprehensive circuit tier ranking list. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.